Well, well, this is the second time this has happened, so I will put this. This, I guess, will be classified as part two of the journey for January 22nd, 2022. This is picking up at approximately 8:15 a.m. PST. This is the second time since March 6th of 2021 that I've actually made this mistake, but in this case, I'm not losing track of where I'm going. Many of you come from homes where families, before I do that, please go back and check out part one of today's video. Okay, I accidentally hit a button and shut my computer off right after I said I had technological problems with computers. Many of you are living in homes where your so-called loved ones are emotionally and or physically beating the daylights out of you and saying, I'm sorry, I love you, I won't do that ever again, but it's your fault I did it in the first place. Okay, it is time to look in the mirror and tell yourself point blank, this is my actions, my words are my responsibility. Yeah, they may absolutely be encouraged by somebody else's actions. Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is, you're the one that did it. I remember sitting in the bar one day, and at the time I was drinking heavily. Right, I was sober at the time, but I was drinking heavily. And I'm sitting there, and I heard this guy, and he was a huge man. And he turned around, he looked at his wife came. I don't know if she was his wife, his girlfriend, but his other half anyway, came in and asked him to go home. And then she made a comment about he was drinking, and she really wanted him to stop. And he turned around and he looked at her and he goes, "It's your fault I'm drinking. You make me drink. You're forcing me to." And I just was, probably because I was sitting there, because I was already drinking, which meant my own tendency of biting my tongue didn't work well. That kind of died. That biting tongue thing kind of died. But I literally looked at the guy and I says, wait a minute. I'm looking at this guy, and he's 6 foot plus and built like a freight train. Okay. His other half was half his size. I says, are you trying to tell everybody in this room with your volume that this tiny little woman is holding you down and physically pouring alcohol into your mouth? And he looks at me and he goes, well, no, that'd be stupid. I says, great. So you're the one picking the bottle up. Now, I'm not debating whether or not your other half, whether you two have problems. But quit pointing the finger at her, because you're the one picking the bottle up. Why I didn't get hit, I have no idea. Okay, but it is absolutely imperative you look in the mirror. Okay, if you're a spiritual guide, make absolutely certain that you are following the guidelines that you are personally telling people to follow. If you're offering tools, which in my case, that's exactly what I do. The tools I personally am using are the same ones I'm offering you, or vice versa. Okay, I will tell you wholeheartedly that the tools that I'm using are the same, that I'm talking about, that I'm suggesting you follow, are the same tools I personally use. Okay. Now, with that in mind, it is absolutely imperative that you turn around and take responsibility for your own actions. Take responsibility for your own words. Absolutely, stay connected to the support groups you have. That's where you'll get the extra support that is required in your life. Okay, this world is designed for people to live, to experience the physical world with very limited senses. Okay, now I'm not suggesting that this is going to be a short journey. It's going to take decades in all likelihood. But when you think about it's taken decades, it's taken millennia to get to this state. And realistically, it's been tried before. Many people in the past have really made the effort They haven't tried to save. They have come out and said, look, get along. Okay, treat each other equally. But don't kid yourself. The fact you come from what if you're living in a world that you consider a first world country, more civilized country. I don't know. I watch the way that some of the the people with less material stuff, okay, and more hardship. I look at the way they get along, and I go, who is really the wealthy people? The people that have all the material stuff, or the people that don't, and are simply holding together and supporting each other and working with each other? Who really are the wealthy people? The ones surrounded by computers and powerful electronics and good-looking cars and phenomenal houses and estates, or the people that have a tight-knit family? Who are the ones that are really wealthy? Okay, I know back in 2003 when we had a massive fire run through this city, through Kelowna. When we had that happen, we have the rich section like most cities, and we've got the poorer sections. Well, the people coming out of the so-called wealthy areas were completely lost. They didn't know how to deal with the hardships of all of a sudden having nothing. The ones that had struggled their whole life had simply gone, it's another day, let's carry on. Okay. And it made me question right then and there, really emphatically, who were really the wealthy people? Now, of course, this has worked against me in some ways, because I look at the material world and go, in spite of all this junk I've got around me, and some of it I like, okay, but in spite of all this junk, I look at it going, there are all sorts of things that I could do without. Okay, am I looking to live on the street? No, I fought tooth and nail to avoid it. But look at the connections you have with the people, the plants, and the animals around you. That's where the real wealth is. And I'm simply requesting you join me on this journey to unite all of it. Okay. And to really take a look. Now, logic is what makes things work, but it's logic which is completely disconnected. It simply looks at the material side. What can I get? And emotion. Well, without that emotional imperative that I desire this thing, you're not likely to put the effort into getting it. Either the emotional imperative of, gee, I really desire this, or as one person I dealt with years ago put it, if you're afraid to not do something, again, you've got that emotional imperative. And it's that emotional imperative that draws people to do things. It's time to take that emotional imperative and reunite the family unit. Now, I usually run the half hour, and, in this case, well, I think the other video only went about the 20-minute mark before I hit the wrong button. Okay. But with that in mind, it is absolutely imperative that we start looking in the mirror and start connecting with each other, rebuild the family, the social connections. Put your guns down, put the conflict down. The material world, in case you hadn't noticed, you may have a whole pile of things out there. Okay, but here's the funny part. Many of the people that have all these trappings, for those of you that don't have a lot, take a look at the people that have the incredible cars, incredible buildings. Okay, they've done very well materially, but most of them are still in the same boat you are. Okay, they are still living one paycheck to the next. They just have a bigger paycheck. But it's time to look in the mirror and go, am I content with my life the way it is? If the answer is no, it is time to start changing it. And the only way that's going to happen is if you get up and actually do the work for yourself. Take the guidance, take the support from everybody that is willing to offer it. Absolutely. But remember, you're the one that is going to have to do that work. Okay, that is just the simple reality of it. Now, I will be back again tomorrow, and hopefully I won't shut the video down this time. I will be back again tomorrow. So double check part 1. Okay, the first part of the journey for January 22nd, 2022. Okay. Double check the first part, because this part here that I'm looking at, that I'm making right now, is part 2. So look at the original part as well. I will be back again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.